Hey college and career success, welcome to week 7. Hard to believe that we're approaching the halfway point of our semester already, which means, again, sorry about this, I'm going to remind you about your student services assignment workshop. It is an assignment for the course, even though it's not due until the last week of our semester. It's really important that you at least go in there, check it out, register for one, and have maybe a backup available as well, so that in case something happens to your original choice, you have something else to fall back on. So I do have a video plugged in there that will walk you through kind of a little bit more details about the workshop, where to find the workshop offerings, and then you will submit your certificate of attendance in the Dropbox right there. Again, I know you have until May, but that's going to come quicker than I think any of us anticipate. So please make sure that you are paying attention to that assignment. So let's go ahead and hop down to week 7. As always, I'm going to kind of just remind you that there's always going to be a lecture video when we cover a chapter. So we are in chapter 5. The lecture video is right there. And then, of course, this is where your assignment video will be. You have your link to your chapter 5 slides and your chapter 5 text if you wanted to spend time in those instead of or in addition to the video. So let's take a look at what you're doing this week. So this is another typical week. You have a discussion post due by Wednesday, as always, for your weekly attendance, and then respond to 2 classmates by Sunday. Your chapter 5 assignment is called the 7 Deadly Sins. It's a reading exercise because chapter 5 is talking about becoming stronger readers and note takers, and so this is going to connect to that. And then your chapter 5 quiz. So let's start taking a look at what these assignments look like. So for your chapter 5 assignment, for a discussion post, here is the prompt. It says, imagine you were given a chapter to read in your American history class about the Gettysburg Address. Okay, so here's the first part. Write down what you already know about this document. So I am not grading you on, oh my gosh, you know so much about this, or whew, you don't know anything. That's not the purpose of this. If you need to do a quick Google search to refresh your memory, because maybe it's been a little while since you've thought about the Gettysburg Address, you can certainly do that. So I would spend, maybe a little under half of your time talking about, this is what I know about the Gettysburg Address. Now, the second part, which is really what gets to the heart of this chapter, is how might thinking through prior knowledge in general, you could connect it to this, but in general, help you better understand the text. So chapter 5 does talk about how if we can activate our prior knowledge, if we can think about what we already know about a topic before reading new information, it is going to assist our comprehension. And so I want you to talk about, how can you think through this, and how is that going to help you in the big picture understanding new information, a new chapter about the Gettysburg Address, okay? And if you're not sure what I mean by prior knowledge, or you want to brush up on that, that's when you go back and visit the lecture video, the slides, the chapter link, whatever you would need to do. So again, it's kind of like a 2-part. What do you know about the Gettysburg Address? And then how does prior knowledge help you understand this text or any text in general? All right, after that, you have your chapter 5 assignment, and so there are 2 parts for this as well. The first part is you have to read this article. So it's right here. So you'll read this article. It's a little outdated at this point, but it's still, that's the purpose of the article. It does not really have to do with the date. So you're going to read the article. It's not terribly long. It's just, about 2.5 pages. Read that article, and then you're going to see that there is the PDF right underneath it, the chapter 5 assignment, and it's going to have 8 questions that connect back to the article. And so again, chapter 5 is about reading, and so this is like a reading connected assignment. So I'm going to go through the questions with you. What's the author's thesis and where it's located? So as a refresher or a reminder, a thesis is a 1-sentence summary of a piece of text. So you should not be writing, the thesis is like this whole paragraph. It is just a 1-sentence summary. And where is it located? Where did you find it? Did you find it in the first paragraph, first sentence? Did you find it in the last paragraph, last sentence? Kind of where is the location of that? How would you describe their tone? What kind of mood are they? Are they critical, funny, optimistic, pessimistic, sarcastic, whatever their tone is? And why did you think that? How effective is the argument? They have a point of view. How effective is that argument? Is it good? Is it bad? Why do you think so? What are their weaknesses and what are their strengths? So talk about maybe what they did well, what they need to improve upon. You can think about things like bias, facts, opinions, examples, writing style, anything like that. 6, you can't go wrong with this as long as you answer it like why or why not. Do you agree with the author? And then why or why not. If you're to write a rebuttal, so give some alternate points of view. And when you write a rebuttal to something, you could agree with the author. You could agree with everything this author says. But critical thinking is also about trying to evaluate things from different perspectives. So what could a rebuttal look like? What are some things he did not address or that he didn't get completely accurate? And then what are some of the deadly sins of teachers and professors? Again, because it's called the 7 deadly sins of students. And it goes through, obviously there's like a parallel between the 7 deadly sins. What are 7 deadly sins of teachers and professors? When you are done, I'm just going to put it in there. Make sure you save it with your changes so it does upload with all your responses so I can read them. And that is due by Sunday. And then finally, your chapter 5 quiz. Here are the questions. Question 1 talks about reading. It says studies suggest students today spend less time reading than in the past, but that doesn't account for social media. Do you think you spend less time reading now than when you were younger? What kind of reading do you do, like on social media? Does this differ from the kind of reading you are doing in college? Do you think social media has a positive or negative effect on your college reading or your professional life? So again, remember all of these need to be responded to in 2 to 5 sentences. Question 2. This talks about preset ideas, personal biases, prejudices. Have you ever considered how it might apply to you and your preset ideas? Because we all have them. It's not a bad thing to have preset ideas or biases. It's natural. For instance, some of us like Coke, others like Pepsi, that type of thing. There are obviously some negative ways that we can be biased, but be honest, have you ever thought about your bias and how that might impact the way you choose to read and study assignments? Could it impact the way you interact in a classroom setting? Just kind of explain that. Question 3 on the section, allowing adequate time for reading. There are several quotes from famous names. I want to emphasize this because students often kind of get confused on this. So I'm going to show you exactly where this is located so you are not looking at the at the wrong spot. So it says 5.2, allowing adequate time for reading. So I'm going to click on 5.2. Here it is. There's this little paragraph right here at the top, but then down here, you're going to see in this paragraph some very famous names. Thomas Jefferson, Frederick Douglass, George R.R. Martin. Pick one of those. I'm not talking about just random reading tips. Pick a quote from one of those quote unquote notable names, and then do you agree or disagree with them? Like, what does it mean? Question 4 talks about note-taking, specifically Cornell notes, outlining and concept mapping. Have you tried any of those? Do you use note-taking apps? What's your experience with those apps? And then overall, what kind of note-taking method fits your learning best? So it's all talking about note-taking there in question 4. And then question 5 is a learning style preference question. When you learn how to do something, do you read a book, website, watch a video, and then why? Have you always felt that way? Have you changed it over time? Do you think media in general has changed your reading habits? Okay, so make sure again that you answer all questions in 2 to 5 complete sentences. I also want to remind you about the 150 word chapter post because I still am having students posting significantly under, around 100 words. And so that's why you're seeing points taken off when it comes time for me to grade everything, because if you're not hitting fairly close to that 150 words, now if you're at 149, I'm not taking points off for that, but you want to get as close to that as possible. All right, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Have a great week.